Hello and welcome back to the channel. On today's tutorial, I'm going to be sharing with you how to cut and sew a bustier gown with a double sleeve and also a drape at the waistline. So if it's your first time viewing my channel, please hit on the subscribe button. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Let's dive right into today's video. So I've gone ahead to mark out the basic measurement, which is the shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust, and the half length. So to get the half length is your shoulder to under bust plus 3 inches or 2 inches, just depends on what you want. So I'm going to mark the basic neckline of 3 by 3 inches, and I'm going to go ahead to place my French curve to connect and draw out the standard neckline. So after I'm done doing this, next I will mark the shoulder divided by 2. So the shoulder I'm working with is 15 inches divided by 2. I have 7.5 plus half inch, making it 8 inches because we are attaching sleeve. So I'll go down by half inch, go ahead to slant it down. From that point, I'm going to get the chest line. So to get your chest line is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. So the chest line I'm working with is 7.6. That is the bust circumference I'm working with is 37 inches divided by 6 plus 1.5. So I have roughly 7.666. So at that line, I'm just going to place and make a straight line. And now whatever I have on this point at the shoulder, which is 8 inches, I'm going to measure it here and go ahead to connect it. So now the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead and divide what I have at this point into 2. So go ahead and mark there and come in by half inch. After coming in by half inch, I'm going to go ahead to mark my bust circumference, the bust circumference I'm working with, divided by 4 at this point. So connect from your chest line down to the half inch you came in and go ahead and connect it also to the shoulder point of this pattern. So this is what I have at this point. So the next step you're going to take now is to go ahead to outline your pattern so that it's going to be very visible for you to see. So now I'm going to mark the nipple to nipple divided by 2. The nipple to nipple I have is 7.5 divided by 2. So I went ahead to fold my tape, and whatever I have, I'm going to mark it at the chest line, bust line, and at my half length. So now after marking that, I'll go ahead to connect a straight line starting from the half length down to the bust and to the chest line. Next step, you want to go ahead and divide your shoulder into 2. So I'm going to place my tape and I'll fold my tape and mark that point. So from there, I'm going to go ahead and connect it down to my chest line this way. So I'm not actually making this dress for myself, so I'll go ahead to mark the dart intake of 1 inch at both sides of my half length. Then go ahead to mark that at my under bust. So after I'm done marking, I'm going to go ahead to connect it down to my half length. So sorry, that part did not show in my video, so I didn't realize that it was not showing when I was actually recording. So the next step is to place my French curve. Go ahead to connect from my bust down to my under bust this way, and go ahead to repeat this at the other side of the pattern. So this is what I have, and I'm going to go ahead to place my tape, go up by 2 inches, and from that point I'm going to mark 1 inch at both sides for my dart. So if you don't have a French curve, you can go ahead and make use of your freehand sketch. It's not a standard or compulsory that you're going to use French curve. So go ahead and connect from the bust point down to that 1 inch at that upper part that we marked. So you can go ahead and mark 1.5 inch upwards also if you don't want to use the 2 inches I marked. So after that, I'm just going to go ahead to outline my pattern. After I'm done drawing that, the next thing I want to do is to create the neckline, sweetheart neckline that I want here. So I don't want mine to be too deep. I'm going to place my French curve and stop at my chest line this way, as simple as that. So now we're going to go ahead to work on the other side. So next step is to go ahead to replace these 2 inches that intake, that's 1 inch at both sides. So you're going to place your tape immediately after your armhole and you're going to replace that 2 inches. So from that point, I'm just going to connect down to that 2 inches mark that I made. So the reason for doing this is to avoid your yoke being bigger than the main pattern, because the lower pattern of this dress, the lower part of this dress, because if you cut out this yoke without replacing it, you're going to be losing out on 2 inches extra. So I'm just going to go ahead and connect from one part of the neckline to the other. But before I do that, I'll go ahead and fold in my pattern paper this way and I'll place and trace. So the reason why I'm doing this is so that the yoke will meet at both sides, because if your yoke does not meet when you're joining your pattern, one side will be longer than the other part and it will require you to start trimming off some part of your pattern. So after doing that, this is what I have. So next step, I'm going to insert the body circumference, measure the bust circumference divided by 4, measure the 2 inches that intake, replace it, and I'll add my 2 inches sewing allowance. Go ahead to reconnect your armhole, place your French cuff or your freehand sketch and reconnect your armhole this way. So now the next step is moving down to the under bust. So whatever I have at the chest line, I'll take it down to the bust line. Now at the under bust, I'll mark the under bust circumference I'm working with divided by 4, measure the 2 inches that intake, replace it and mark the 2 inches sewing allowance. At the half length, I'll be inserting the waist circumference at that point, because the waist part of the skirt will be meeting the half length. So after marking that, measure the dart intake that you marked out, replace it, and I'm going to go ahead and add my sewing allowance. So I'm just going to go ahead to connect my pattern this way. So after connecting, I'm just going to go ahead to use my marker to outline it so that the pattern will be very visible. After outlining, I'll just go ahead and label my yoke and I'll cut out my pattern. So if you have any question concerning this particular pattern drafting, please leave your question at the comment section. So now after I'm done drafting, this is what I have and we'll be moving over to the back pattern. So for the back pattern, I've gone ahead to mark out all the basic measurements just like we did for the front. The only difference is that we have a zipper allowance in this pattern. So what you're going to do is just add a zipper allowance to the back. So for the neckline of the back, I used 3 by 2 inches. So now we're going to mark our dart, and to mark your dart is to measure your shoulder to bust plus 1 inch. So for this pattern, I'm also using a basic back bodice, so you can go ahead and alter the yoke part of your own. So now I'm going to mark the nipple to nipple divided by 2. Mark that at the half length at the under bust, and I'm also going to place my tape and then mark my shoulder to bust. I'm working with 11 plus 1 inch, that's 12. So that is where my dart is going to start. So now I'm going to place and mark the nipple to nipple point divided by 2. Go ahead to connect and draw a straight line. So I'm going to go ahead to mark ½ inch at both sides. After marking that, I'm going to connect it to the tip where I marked the dart. So this is what I have, and now I'm going to go ahead to insert my body measurement, the body measurement I'm working with, and it's going to start immediately after my dart. So I'm going to mark the bust circumference, which is 37 divided by 4, and mark that my sewing allowance, which is 2 inches. At the under bust, I'm going to start all my measurements starting from the zipper line. I'll mark the under bust circumference divided by 4. Go ahead and measure this dart intake here, and I'll go ahead to replace it. After that, I'm going to go ahead to mark the 2 inches sewing allowance. At the waistline, I'm going to mark the waist circumference divided, at the half length, I'll mark the my waistline circumference at the half length divided by 4. measure the dart intake I have at that point, and I'm going to go ahead to replace it. So after marking that, I'm going to go ahead to also mark my dart intake. So my pattern is not enough, and I will just complete it when I'm drafting out my pattern. So I'll go ahead and reconnect it, and this is my back pattern for the back. Now we're going to go ahead to get rid of the bulginess at the back. Mark 1/2 inch, and you're going to extend it upwards this way to remove or get rid of that bulginess that is always at the back of the dress. So I'll go ahead to cut out my pattern, and after that we'll be moving over to the lower part, which is the skirt pattern. So I've gone ahead to fold out my skirt, and now to get the full length, you're going to place your tape immediately after that half length, and you're going to cut out the full length. And to fold your skirt is your hip circumference divided by 4 plus your sewing allowance. So place your tape at that 18 inches and mark out the full length, which is the half length. The full length of this dress is 62 plus 2 inches, making it 64. So after that, I'm going to go ahead to place my tape, and I'm going to mark 10 inches for the hip point. So if you cut your skirt with shoulder to waist point, you're going to use 7 inches to get your hip. But for this pattern, I'll place my tape and mark 10 inches. So after that, you want to go ahead and place your tape and get where your knee point is. Very important. So I'm going to place my tape at 18 inches. So the knee point stops at 40 inches at this point. So you have to measure your shoulder to knee point, or you're going to go ahead to measure waist to knee point. So after that, I went up by 2 inches at that point. So now I'm going to go ahead to insert the waist circumference at this point divided by 4. After doing that, I'm going to go ahead to add the sewing allowance. So after I'm done doing that, I'm going to insert the hip circumference divided by 4 plus 2 inches. So this is exactly what I folded my skirt with, and I'm just going to connect at that point. So whatever I have here, the hip circumference plus 2 inches sewing allowance. Now to give your skirt a fitted effect, you're going to minus what you have at the hip point. That is the hip point I'm working with. Let's assume we are working with hip 40 divided by 4, you have 10 inches. So plus 2 inches, 12 inches. So now to mark at the lower part, you're going to minus 2 inches or 1.5 inches depending on how fitted you want the dress. So I minused 2 inches from that point, and I went ahead to mark it all the way down to the lower part of the skirt. So don't forget also to add 2 inches folding allowance to your, or turn up allowance to your skirt. So after that, I'll connect my skirt pattern and I'll go ahead to cut it off. So after cutting out my skirt, the next thing is to cut the back. And to cut the back, I'm going to place another fabric on it, and I'll add the zipper allowance in front this way, and then trace out the back just like I have done. So now I'm just going to go ahead to slit this into 2. So after slitting this, my back pattern, my skirt pattern is done. So in our next video, I'm going to go ahead to show you how to cut and join this particular fabric. Please, at this point, if you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, please hit on the subscribe button. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and if you have any question, please leave at the comment section. So see you in our next video. Thanks.